this. Live out of Minneapolis, White House border czar Tom Homan holding a press conference, the first since he took over the position of managing ICE operations there. Let's listen.
Marcos Charles, he's running ICE operations here. There you go. Rodney Scott, Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, standing here beside me. Good morning, I'm Tom Homan, border czar for President Trump. I'm here on behalf of the President, along with U.S. Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Rodney Scott, and Marcos Charles, who's leading the enforcement effort here right now. I've been on the ground since Monday to regain law and order in the city beloved by many, and work together to remove threats from the community. During the past administration, we'll all remember, more than 10 million illegal aliens entered this nation. Many were national security threats, public safety threats. We can't remember over 2 million known gotaways. 2 million people who paid more to get away. Why? That should scare the hell out of everybody. President Trump promised American people, including the residents of Minnesota, that he would work to ensure our communities are safe. And with that, this administration is absolutely focused on identifying removal aliens that pose a public safety threat and national security threats. And the numbers prove it. The data proves it. In the past few days, I've met with Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, Mayor Frey, numerous police chiefs and sheriffs, and I have more to meet. I'll also be continuing the dialogue with business and religious leaders in partnership with Minnesota, your community leaders. I'll be meeting with them too, because I want to hear what they have to say. In my meetings with folks so far, and most importantly, the governor and the AG, the Mayor Frey, we didn't agree on everything. I didn't expect to agree on anything. I've heard many people want to know why we're talking to people who they don't consider friends in administration. Bottom line is you can't fix problems if you don't have discussions. I didn't come to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines. You haven't seen me. I came here to seek solutions, and that's what we're going to do. And we've come a long way, and we got some good wins for the people of Minnesota, I think, and for the administration and for the safety and security of this city. One thing we did agree on, though, everybody I talked to agreed on, was that community safety is paramount. One thing we all agreed on was U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement is a legitimate law enforcement agency that has a duty to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and keep this community safe. Like I've said many times for the last several years, even before this administration, jurisdictions that refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities are sanctuaries for criminals. Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals, and endangers the residents of the community. To be clear, we did not agree with Minnesota state and local officials that they would be involved in immigration enforcement. I didn't ask them to be immigration officers. I'm asking them to be cops working with the cops to help us take criminal aliens off the street. What we did agree upon is not to release public safety arrests back in the community when they could be lawfully transferred to ICE. I'll speak more about that. I will highlight that the Minnesota State Prison System under the Department of Corrections have been honoring ICE detainers. And we appreciate that important collaboration, and we're going to expand upon that. That decision has made Minnesota safer, not only for residents of Minnesota, but the men and women in law enforcement. Not just ICE, all law enforcement. Rather than arresting the same public safety threat, significant public safety threat over and over again, they agree to work with us to identify those people and remove them. I'm also pleased to announce I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison And he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon their release from the jail. And let me tell you why that's important. I know people are a lot concerned about the manpower has been set in law enforcement manpower. Look, I've said this many times before. I've said it for the last several years. Give us access to the illegal alien public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. It's common sense. It's safer for the community, it's safer for the agent, and it's safer for the alien. Because anything can happen on a street arrest. It just makes common sense. And for the people that argue, well, we're a welcoming community because we want victims and witnesses of crime that are here illegally to feel safe to come to police without fear they're working with ICE, we're not going to talk to the victim and witness of crime. There's no problem there. They should feel safe to come to police and ask for help. All we want is to talk to the person that local and state law enforcement authorities locked in a jail cell. They chose to lock this person up. That's who we want to talk to, the public safety threat. So the argument is that protects victim witnesses of crime. It's a bunch of crap. Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy back in their neighborhood either. So great progress with the Attorney General and local sheriffs. And one thing, when we have these agreements, it takes less law enforcement agents to do the job. One agent can arrest one bad guy in the safety and security of a jail where he's behind the wire. We know we don't have weapons. But when you normally release that public safety threat, illegal alien back in the community, we have a job to do. We're going to arrest him. So we're going to find him. And what happens is now we got to arrest somebody on his turf. We have access to who knows what weapons. Now we got to send the whole team out. Cover the back door, cover the front door, officer safety reasons. Then because of the hateful rhetoric and the attacks on ICE officers, now we got to send a security team behind the arrest team. So what could have been done with one person in a safety and security jail, now we got 15, 16 people out there doing it. I know that causes stress in the community. So if we get these agreements in place, that means less agents on the street. More agents in the jail means less agents in the street. This is common sense cooperation that allows us to draw down on the number of people we have here. Yes, I said it. Draw down the number of people here. Because we have the efficiency and safety of the jails and the prison. Matter of fact, I have staff from CBP and from ICE working on a draw-down plan. What does that look like based on the cooperation? What does that look like based on how many targets we have left to find? In my meetings with Governor Walz, AG Ellison, and Mayor Fry, as well as state and local law enforcement, again, I appreciate they all acknowledge that we do have federal immigration laws in this country that have been passed by Congress, and that ICE is in fact a legitimate law enforcement agency charged with enforcing those laws. We're not making this up, folks. ICE is enforcing laws enacted by Congress. They're a federal statute. That said, I'm not here because the federal government has carried this mission out perfectly. First thing I said to senior staff when I walked in here is what I told you earlier. I didn't come here looking for photo ops or headlines. I come here looking for solutions. I do not want to hear that everything's been done here has been perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. Anything can be improved on. And what we've been working on is making this operation safer, more efficient, by the book. The mission is going to improve because of the changes we're making internally. No agency or organization is perfect. And President Trump and I, along with others in the administration, have recognized that certain improvements could and should be made. That's exactly what I'm doing here. As such, in meetings I've had with federal law enforcement managers, including ICE and CBP and other federal partners, as well as state and local officials, I have conveyed the President's expectations with regard to federal immigration enforcement efforts. We will conduct targeted enforcement operations. Targeted. What we've done for decades. When we hit the streets, we know exactly who we're looking for. Good idea where we may find them. You have a criminal history. You have their immigration history. A lot of information about this person that we get from numerous databases out there. Targeted, strategic enforcement operations. That's traditionally been the case, and that's where we're going. That's what we're going to continue to do and improve upon that. With a prioritization on public safety threats. I want to be clear. I don't read a lot of social media. I don't read a lot of media. I don't believe half what I see. We are not surrendering the President's mission in immigration enforcement. Let's make that clear. Prioritization of criminal aliens doesn't mean that we forget about everybody else. That's just simply ridiculous. But when you have a criminal standing here and a non-criminal standing there, that criminal always should be targeted first because he's a significant concern to the safety and security of the community. By and large, for decades, ICE and CBP have carried out their duties with integrity, professionalism, and compassion. That remains the expectation under President Trump, and I will hold our agents and officers to that standard. I'm almost done, then Tom can be Tom. As far as the agitators, that said, I want to reiterate and make very clear. I want to make it clear, ICE and CBP officers are performing their duties in a challenging environment under tremendous circumstances, but they're trying to do it with professionalism. If they don't, they'll be dealt with. Like any other federal agency, we have standards of conduct. They are sworn law enforcement officers working tirelessly to enforce our country's border security and immigration laws, protecting the interests of our country and preventing dangerous people from walking the streets of this nation when they're not supposed to be here to begin with. Men and women of ICE, I was a Border Patrol agent. I was an ICE agent. I was the first ICE director that came up through the ranks. I spent over 40 years doing this. These men and women that carry that badge and gun are American patriots. They put themselves on the line for this nation every day. But I want you to remember, they don't hang their badge, they don't hang their heart on a hook every day they come to work. They're mothers and fathers too. They're sons and daughters too. And if they've seen a fraction of the tragedies I've seen in my career, they take a lot of damage home to every day. The things they've seen, especially on the border with Border Patrol agents. People drowning in the river. Women being raped by criminal cartels. Giving CPR to a baby that was thrown in the river by the cartels because Border Patrol came too close. So let's throw the baby in the river. That way the Border Patrol was concentrating on that so I can get away. These men and women see some terrible things. But I want you to remember, they're mothers and fathers too. Many of them are members of this community. God bless every one of them. The hostile rhetoric and dangerous threats and hate must stop. And we all agreed to that. All everybody met here today to tell you, we got to stop the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric that has caused an increase in assaults. That has caused, because of that, having to send security teams out with arrest teams, which surge the city with additional resources because of the rhetoric, because of the threats, because of the assaults. Again, with the agreements we've achieved and following through the agreements, with the rhetoric dropping down, that allows us to pull more agents out once we feel the environment's safer. I begged for the last 2 months on TV for the rhetoric to stop. I said in March, if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been. I wish I wasn't right. I don't want to see anybody die. Not officers, not members of the community, and not the targets of our operations. For the people out there who don't like what ICE is doing, if you want certain laws reformed, then take it up with Congress. Again, ICE is making this up. They're enforcing laws enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The same laws have been on the books for the last 6 presidents I worked for. I started with President Reagan and ending with President Trump. Every administration, we enforce the same laws. If you don't like what ICE is doing, instead of protesting this building, go protest Congress. Tell me what changes. If you have your First Amendment rights, I support that. You have the right to protest. I'm just asking you to keep it peaceful. But threatening law enforcement officers, engaging in impeding and obstruction and assault is never okay. And there will be zero tolerance. You interfere, impede, assault an ICE officers, you will be arrested. Like I said a bit earlier in my meetings with Governor Walton Ellison and Frey, as well as state and local law enforcement, I appreciate they acknowledge this, that public safety should be paramount. The chiefs I've talked to committed to responding to 911 calls when protesters turn violent, agents are in a dangerous situation, and there's assaults. They have committed to upholding public safety and responding to the needs, not to enforce immigration law, but to keep the peace. With that, I call upon those officials to stand shoulder to shoulder with us to tone down the dangerous rhetoric and condemn all unlawful action against law enforcement in the community. There are many ways your voice can be heard, express your feelings, and affect change in the country without crossing that line. Political and other disagreements in this realm should not be at the expense of public safety or the safety of federal law enforcement officers. In closing, I want to thank the state and local officials here in Minnesota that I met with and the many I'm going to meet with. We've had meaningful dialogue. And look, again, we didn't agree on everything, but we agreed on the things I just talked about. There's much more we can do. And I'm going to continue this dialogue. I got many more community leaders to talk to. I got many more sheriffs to meet. President Trump wants this fixed, and I'm going to fix it with your help. I want to thank President Trump for his unwavering commitment to public safety and prosperity of every American. Under the President's leadership, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, which means less women are being raped, less children are dying crossing that border, less fentanyl is getting in this country to kill Americans, less known suspected terrorists are crossing that country. And we don't have 2 million unknown gotaways. We don't know who the hell they are. A secure border, we have stronger national security. A secure border saves lives. When 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being sucked to be members of the cartel? How many people aren't dying making that journey? How many Americans aren't dying of fentanyl overdoses? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked in this nation? The data proves it. Anybody can find that data. So God bless this great nation. God bless Minnesota. We can do better. And I thank your local and state leaders meeting with me. We made some significant gains, significant coordination and cooperation, and you're going to see some massive changes occurring here in this city. Thank you.
Can you clarify what the rules of engagement are?
Hold on, right here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Homan, Giovanna Delorto with the Associated Press. Based on how you have described these changes in the mission, can you be more specific about the objectives of Operation Metro Surge? If what you have described changes the parameters for interior enforcement only in Minnesota or also in Maine and other places? And finally, when will you consider that those objectives will be achieved and this operation will end? Is it in terms of agents on the ground, in terms of who you are targeting for arrests?
The withdrawal of law enforcement resources here is dependent upon cooperation. Like I said, one agent arresting one bad guy in jail means less agents on the street. We have some agreements. We got more to talk about how we're going to implement these agreements. But as we see that cooperation happen, then the redeployment will happen. Look, target enforcement operations should happen across the nation. That's what we've done for decades. And with target enforcement operations, I've done many of them. It just makes it safer for everybody. When we know exactly what we're looking for, what is his criminal history, what is his immigration history, where's he live, is he in an apartment complex versus a house, has he got a known record for having weapons, it's safer for everybody. Then we know what type of resources we need to go. And it just makes this operation cleaner, more efficient, and it's proven less violence when we know exactly what we're getting into and we can take the necessary precautions to keep everybody safe. Some of the operations that I've been involved in, we know there's children in the house based on surveillance. So we know you got to be a little bit different when you go into the house because there's going to be children present. So target enforcement operations, the way we've always done it, I think we got away from a little bit. And we're going to make sure we do target enforcement operations. And look, I will say it again, we are not surrendering our mission at all. We're just doing it smarter.
Shimon Prokopez from CNN. Mr. Homan, how did we get here in terms of you had Greg Bovino, who was the face of this immigration operation, the mission, as you say, to having border patrol agents in the interior of this country, stopping U.S. citizens, asking them for ID, creating this fear in places like Chicago and now here. And then finally, it took really the death of Alex Pretti for us to get here. How did that happen? Who made the decisions to allow this kind of operation to proceed in this way and to create such fear?
Well, look, the Border Patrol, in the last 4 years under Joe Biden, we have an open border where 10, 12,000 people a day are coming across the border. Border Patrol got overwhelmed, which means we sent thousands of ICE agents down there to help deal with that humanitarian crisis, to help secure the border. Now we have millions of people released in this nation, many unvetted. Now we got to find them. Before the big, beautiful bill, we had a total just under 5,000 deportation officers to look for millions of people, many in public safety threats. So yes, we needed Border Patrol to come and help on our mission now. And the reason for the massive deployment is because of the threats, because of the violence. Our officers need to be protected. If I'm on an operation, an arrest team, I'm going to a house, I got to be busy with that guy, the dangerous guy, and I can't keep looking over my shoulder at what's happening outside the house. So we brought extra resources in to provide that security. And as I said, as we drill down on these great agreements we got and this great understanding we have means less. So we can draw down those resources. When the violence decreases, we can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources as far as those looking for public safety threats being released, and do it in the jail with much less people. So the drawdown is going to happen based on these agreements. But the drawdown can happen even more if the hateful rhetoric and the impediment and interference will stop. So Border Patrol, I was a Border Patrol agent. These men and women are patriots. God bless them. They're here to help us. And the drawdown will come soon, depending on when this actually, I see this in play. But the agreements to have alone is going to cause a significant drawdown. So you're going to see a drawdown.
Just on a personal, you've been doing this for 40 years. Just
Tom
a
Homan.
follow-up.
Ben, go ahead. No.
First off, Ben Burquam, Real America's Voice News. On behalf of the American people, I just want to say thank you to you and to all of the agents that are putting their lives on the line to go after the people that were allowed in the last administration. We watched that happen in the media, the honest media, covered up by many of the media that are behind me. We want to say thank you, and to all the men and women that are out there. Can you talk to us about what's being done with the leadership on these signal chats, on these WhatsApp chats that are organizing the attacks against you, the obstruction against you? Are there Are we going to be arresting those individuals as well? And to the folks out there in America that voted for this, that want mass deportations because they saw a mass invasion under Joe Biden, what would you say to them? How are we going to get to that point?
Well, first of all, about the organization and the funding of the attacks on ICE. I'm not going to answer a lot about that because I'm not going to show our hand, but they'll be held accountable. Justice is coming. Again, we got to all remember why the question from CNN, why are we here? What started this? 4 years of an open border where millions of people are let in this country unvetted. Remember, let's not forget, for 4 years we were told the border secure. 4 years we were told the border secure. And we all knew it wasn't. And I want this to be a positive thing we're doing here today. I also want to remember the politicians are continually attacking us. Where were they the last 4 years when the number of women, children, sex trafficking went all-time high? Where were they when 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl coming across the border? Where were they when women and children are dying making that journey? Where were they when over 4,000 aliens making that journey died? Historic record. Where were they? Not a word. Now we're just trying to respond to what happened the last 4 years and keeping this country safe. And we're arresting a lot of public safety threats, take them off the streets, which make this country safer. President Trump promised to make this country safe again, and that's what we're doing. But my 2.5 days up here, we made a lot of progress. I think everybody agrees on the criminal and public safety threats. They agree it's much safer and easier to arrest an alien in a facility than send a whole team out in the field that's going to draw anger, because now we got to send a bunch of people to do something that could have been done by 1 or 2 people. And I've said this for years. I have no ill will to anybody in Minnesota. All the people I talk to, we're never going to agree on everything. We have different philosophies and different opinions on immigration, but we all agree this is a way to go to reduce safety, reduce crime, reduce crime and increase safety for our operations. More people in the jail means less people on the street. It's simple math.
Sir, Lana Zach, CBS News. Everybody I've spoken with agrees that if somebody has a violent criminal history and is a fugitive, they don't want them as their neighbor. But when you're talking about a targeted operation, and are you talking about targeting people whose crime is coming to this country, or is it a more specific definition now?
All operations will be targeted, but the prioritization are going to be criminal aliens, public safety threats, and national security threats. I've met with Marcos and his staff. We got a lot of them. We got a lot of them to keep us busy. So that would be our focus.
So that is enough that's what, there is not going to be a focus on people who have no other crimes except for their status.
If you're in the country illegally, you're never off the table. But prioritization doesn't mean you forget about everybody. So let me say this. If the message we send is you can enter this country illegally, it's a crime, don't worry about it. You can have your due process, show up in court, not show up in court, get ordered removed, don't worry about it. Unless you commit a serious crime, you're good to go. If that's the message we send to the world, you're never going to fix this problem. The most vulnerable people in the world will make that dangerous journey like they did under the Joe Biden administration. Over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. And again, a significant increase in sex trafficking. Because when they did that and opened those borders up saying, we're not going to detain you, we're going to give you free health care, we're going to fly you to the city of your choice, put you in a free hotel room, give you 3 meals a day, and give you work authorization, we're just going to bring you in. And when they did that, they sent a message to the whole world, you can come and do this. And what happened? They overwhelmed the men and women of the Border Patrol, where many days 70% of agents were pulled off that line. 70%. You don't think the criminal cartels had a field day with that? They created gaps for the cartels do their activity. And that's why you've seen the rise in fentanyl overdose. That's why you saw the rise in sex trafficking. The 2 million plus known gotaways, why did they pay more to get away? Why didn't they pay less turn yourself in, get released within 24 hours. You get a free airline ticket to the city of your choice. We're going to give you a free hotel room, and we'll give you free food and free medical care. And you're going to get work authorization in 6 months. Why did 2 million people choose to pay more not to take advantage of that giveaway program? They didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. That scares the hell out of me, and it does still. The Trump administration with ICE and Secretary Noem and Marco Rubio and the intelligence community, Tulsi Gabbard, we're all working together to try to identify who these people are, and we've already found many of them. But it's hard work to do. But there are national security threats walking this nation because of the last administration, and they are one of our main priorities too.
Thank you. Can you please be specific about how many ICE and how many Border Patrol agents are currently operating in the state?
I think we're near 3,000. There's been some rotations. Another thing I witnessed when I came here, I'll share this with you. I met with a lot of people, a lot of the agents. They've been in theater. Some of these people have been in theater for 8 months. So there's going to be rotations of personnel. Hopefully less now that we have some agreements. Maybe we can make it more efficient and safe. But they've been in theater a long time, and so there's rotations happen all the time to get people out here and go home, get some rest, and see their families. Day after day, can't eat in restaurants. Day after day, having people spit on you and blow whistles at you. Day after day, having all these threats at you. Day after day, having people trying to interfere with you. Day after day, they're human. So we've got to rotate these people, and we've already rotated some. But my main focus now is drawdown, based upon the great conversations I've had with your state and local leaders. Again, I'm not a fool. I'm not walking away without seeing this put in place. But I take the word of the people I met with. I think they're honest, and I think they're good brokers, that they want public safety protected, and they also want what's happening in the city to go away. And that's my goal.
Last question in the back.
Mueller Newsmax. The new video of Alex Pretti is now circulating. Your reaction to that, and do you think law enforcement could have played a role if, like, let's say, Minneapolis police were able to respond to that? Have those top law enforcement officials said they'll help or do anything to help these agents who are out here?
I'm not going to comment on any of these shootings. I said from day one, I said on any of these shootings, as a career law enforcement officer, we'll let the investigation roll out, let the investigation play out, and let it go where it goes. I'm not going to come out and make any comments that I think is right, wrong. Do I have an opinion? Yeah, my personal opinion, but I'm not going to share that with you. I'm going to tell you, let the investigation play out and see where it goes. But again, the president, one of the words he said to me when I came up here, he said he didn't want to see anybody die. The less interference, the less rhetoric, the less, I have buried Border Patrol agents and I buried ICE agents throughout my career, and the saddest thing I've ever done is hand a folded flag to a wife or a child. I don't want to see anybody die, even the people we're looking for. I don't want to see anybody die. And despite what people think of Tom Homan, I say a prayer every night that everybody goes home safe. This isn't good. But I think my conversations the last 2.5 days are leading us to a safer community, letting ICE officers operate in the safety and security of a jail more than on the street. I think anybody here with common sense would say it's safer to arrest a public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. And let me tell you, what is that going to result in? Less collateral arrests. When we go find that bad guy, when we find that bad guy, many times it's with others. Well, guess what? They're in the country illegally. We're going to force immigration law. They're coming too. You want less collateral arrests? Less in the jail. But we're going to force immigration law. For the people to say we're here to surrender our authority and the mission of enforcing immigration law, you are wrong. We're going to do target enforcement operations, and we're going to prioritize the public safety threats and national security threats. That is what we're here to do.
Sir, no more questions. Go ahead.
Is
No more questions, guys. Thank you.
All right, we've been listening live there to President Trump's border czar Tom Homan speaking in Minneapolis for the first time since taking over and overseeing operations there after the ouster of Gregory Bovino. And he said he is there to seek solutions. The border czar saying that you cannot solve problems until you have discussions. He said that he's been speaking with state and local officials so far, is receiving more cooperation from them. And as a result, he says people in Minneapolis can expect to see a drawdown in ICE officials in the days and weeks ahead. CBS News correspondent Ian Lee was listening alongside us to the border czar's remarks and joins us now. Ian, what stood out to you? A significant announcement from Tom Homan that a drawdown of agents would begin soon.
Yeah, a number of significant announcements, Errol. First off, he admitted that this operation hasn't been perfect. He says that, there have been mistakes made. He's here to start that dialogue. And we heard that multiple times, that dialogue with state and local officials, law enforcement, trying to get everyone on the same page. He says they didn't agree on everything, but he said they all agreed that public safety was paramount. One of the big announcements he's made, though, is that if someone is undocumented, if they're in the jail, then the jail will hand that person over to federal authorities. He says that is crucial because one agent can arrest one person. If that person is released, he says, then you need over a dozen agents to go to that person's house to make that arrest. He says, they have to take in things into consideration of threats to them. But also, he says you have to have a security detail also with that group to protect them against potential protesters. And so he says that creates a big presence on the streets. So he said that this is a significant development that they are able to pick people up from jail after they've been arrested. He said they're going after, their priority are public safety and national security threats. But we heard Lana Zach ask the question about what about people who are just in the country here illegally? They haven't committed any other crimes. He said no one's off the table. And we have seen people like that arrested as well. He says he didn't want to send the message that you can come to the country and have everything provided for you. So, he said that with that announcement of the jail arrest, that they can start looking at withdrawing some of the agents from this area. But he also called for a toning down of the rhetoric. He says that hasn't been helpful. But he says his main goal is that this operation goes smoothly and safely. He said he doesn't want to see anyone killed during these operations.
Ian Lee live for us in Minneapolis, where he will continue to report for the rest of the day. Ian, thank you. Let's jump to the White House now, where we find CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand. She was also listening to Tom Homan there announce a drawdown of ICE agents based on cooperation with officials there, Natalie. But Tom Homan did mention that they did not agree, he and local officials, that state and local officials would be involved in immigration activity. So some progress directed by President Trump, but also some areas of disagreement remain.
Yeah, and we saw that play out on social media yesterday with President Trump's message that Mayor Fry is, quote, playing with fire, since he made clear, Fry did, that his local officers will not enforce federal immigration law on the street. So he said, well, they don't see eye to eye on that point. He was pleased, Homan was pleased with progress made, as Ian was talking about, in the jails. And, what's known as ICE detainers, the ability to transfer inmates to ICE if a suspect has been arrested. So he was pleased with that angle and I guess better collaboration between the local authorities and the federal officers on that point, which he said will lead to the plans that are being made for the start of a drawdown. He also said President Trump wants this fixed, noting the tensions in Minnesota, saying again, as Ian did, that the president and Homan do not want to see anyone killed. We know that he was sent there to de-escalate the situation and try to find solutions with local leaders. And a key point of this news conference was really to emphasize the point that they're going to work in a more targeted, efficient way to really target what he called criminals, public safety, and national security threats.
Natalie Brand, live for us at the White House. Natalie, stand by for us because it is now 9 a.m. here on the East Coast. I'm Errol Barnett at the CBS Broadcast Center in New York as we have just watched President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, announce from Minneapolis that a drawdown of ICE agents there would begin if cooperation with state and local officials, as he sees it, continues. He made those remarks in the past hour, directed by President Trump to take over these operations after Gregory Bovino, the previous leader of the operations there, was reassigned last week following the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens who were protesting ICE activities. Natalie Brand is standing by at the White House. We have Ian Lee in Minneapolis as well. And our own Lana Zak was in the room in the press conference with Mr. Homan and was able to ask him this question. Let's listen to that exchange.
Criminal history, and as a fugitive, they don't want them as their neighbor. But when you're talking about a targeted operation, and are you talking about targeting people whose crime is coming to this country, or is it a more specific definition now?
All operations will be targeted, but the prioritization are going to be criminal aliens, public safety threats, and national security threats. I've met with Marcos and his staff. We got to allow them. We got to allow them to keep us busy. So that would be our focus.
But that is enough that's what, there is not going to be a focus on people who have no other crimes except for their status.
If you're in the country illegally, you're never off the table. You know, but prioritization doesn't mean you forget about, you forget about everybody. So let me say this. If the message we send is you can enter this country illegally, it's a crime, don't worry about it. You can have your due process, show up in court and not show up in court, get ordered to move, don't worry about it. Unless you commit a serious crime, you're good to go. If that's the message we send to the world, you're never going to fix this problem. The most vulnerable people in the world will make that dangerous journey like they did under the Joe Biden administration. Over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. And again, a significant increase in sex trafficking. Because when they did that and opened those borders up saying, we're not going to detain you, we're going to give you free health care, we're going to fly you to the city of your choice, put you in a free hotel room, give you 3 meals a day, and give you work authorization, we're just going to bring you in. And when they did that, they sent a message to the whole world, you can come and do this. And what happened? They overwhelmed the men and women of the Border Patrol, where many days 70% of agents were pulled off that line. 70%. You don't think the criminal cartels had a field day with that? They created gaps for the cartels do their activity. And that's why you've seen the rise in fentanyl overdose. That's why you saw the rise in sex trafficking. The 2 million plus known gotaways, why did they pay more to get away? Why didn't they pay less, turn yourself in, get released within 24 hours? You get a free airline ticket to the city of your choice. We're going to give you a free hotel room, and we'll give you free food and free medical care. And you're going to get work authorization in 6 months. Why did 2 million people choose to pay more not to take advantage of that giveaway program? They didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. That scares the hell out of me, and it does still. The Trump administration with ICE and Secretary Noem and Marco Rubio and the intelligence community, Tulsi Gabbard, we're all working together to try to identify who these people are. And we've already found many of them. But it's hard work to do. But there are national security threats walking this nation because of the last administration. And they are one of our main priorities, too.
Thank you.
Border czar Tom Homan there responding to Alana Zak's question in the last hour. Let's bring in Ian Lee. He's been reporting from Minneapolis for many days. Ian, the border czar there emphasizing why these ICE operations are necessary, but Mr. Homan is there because so many in Minnesota and Minneapolis have been outraged by the manner in which American citizens have been treated and profiled for fear of being perceived as being in the country illegally. How will Mr. Homan's remarks likely be received by people where you are? He spoke for about 10 minutes and took even longer to answer reporters' questions. How is this likely to be received?
Well, Errol, there's a lot of people here in Minneapolis who don't want ICE here. And so as long as those agents are on the ground, you're going to see protests, you're going to see pushback from the community. Tom Homan did say he came to bring law and order, but admitted that mistakes were made, and he's here to help rectify those mistakes. He's had a lot of meetings with local and state officials, he said, and one of the key takeaways is that if someone who's undocumented is in jail, then that person is now going to be handed over to ICE custody. And he says this is crucial because one person can arrest one person in jail because it's a secure location. He said if that person is released, which has previously happened, he says then you need these large operations, which we have been seeing around Minneapolis, where not only do you have agents going to make that arrest, and you need multiple of them for multiple contingencies, but he says you also need a security detail to help protect those agents for potential protesters. And that's where you see that friction over the past weeks. And so he says this will lower the temperature just because if you have those arrests in jail, you're not having that visible presence of all these ICE agents on the streets. But, and he says that will help withdraw the numbers here as well. But he said his priorities were public safety, national safety, security threats. But as we heard from Lana, his answer to Lana is that, no one is off the table. And we have seen other people arrested as well. But going back to the mistakes that were made, there have been Americans who have been arrested and rounded up. Possibly this is something he's going to look further into. But, they say they're not going to leave until this job is done.
And Ian, in the backdrop of this, you have congressional Democrats trying to hold up government funding unless they get reforms from DHS, including ending roving patrols of ICE, tighter rules around warrants, a uniform code of conduct, and demasking these ICE agents and having them wear body cams. So the administration certainly under pressure. Ian Lee, we appreciate your live reporting and that of Natalie Brand at the White House. But stay close. We've got much more on this and the day's other big stories for you next. Vladimir Duthier and Kelly O'Grady will be right here momentarily for CBS News 24/7 Mornings. I'm Errol Barnett. Stay right there.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the Takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the Takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Chilling with the queen, her name is Gayle King.
Hey! CBS
Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning. CBS Morning. CBS Mornings on CBS and where else? Paramount Plus. See you at 7. CBS Mornings.
I want a mug. Yeah, good mug.
When a young woman nearly dies from poisoning,
it just progressively got worse, and someone said it's lead poisoning.
Investigators focus on the two people she trusted the most.
I was at that time a suspect. Everybody had to be a suspect.
I'm gonna ask you a direct question. Did you try to poison your wife?
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Here it is.
60 Minutes.
I am not looking down.
Takes you on the perilous trek to Everest.
Every rock counts. We're so close.
I fought every day to get out from under the weight of the Yellowstone. I've lost my teammates, my parents, even my brothers. I know that sometimes good men have to do bad things, but I'm trying to find a new beginning.
Casey, need my marshals.
This'll be fun.
Gangs, cartels, race warriors. They look like God's country to you. But the devil's running free out there, man.
Dutons are all born with a killer instinct. But you're not a killer, Casey. You're a protector.
Do you believe this case could be solved?
Yes, I do.
What is your emergency? I accidentally shot my wife.
Do you think it was accidental? I guess that's the million-dollar question.
It's not a violent crash.
No.
Whoa.
There's our connection.
Lady down.
I knew this was going to happen.
Did this look like an accident or something else? Something entirely different?
I never would have guessed how this ended.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness. Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
God, you do your research. I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vladimir Duthiers.
And I'm Kelly O'Grady.
So we've been watching border czar Tom Homan. He's had a news conference that just played out in Minneapolis, and he sort of laid out priorities in Minnesota, which he says includes targeted immigration operations. He talked a lot about what is expected to happen in the days and weeks ahead, as we now know that Gregory Bovino, who was there on the ground, the commander at large, has been reassigned, and Kristi Noem herself is going to focus, a DHS secretary, is seemingly going to focus more on border security and less on what's happening in Minneapolis and in Maine. So we're going to have a lot more on that in just a few minutes, but we also want to bring in CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro, who has more on this cabinet meeting that's happening later today, where no doubt this is going to come up. Aaron, so we expect that we will see the President of the United States with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem later today. And this is all against the backdrop, as we all know, of folks who are calling, mostly Democrats, who are calling for her to be replaced. Democrats have made noises that they want to impeach her. There are some Republicans who are not happy with her actions. They have not yet called for her impeachment, but they say that at the very least, what the president did in removing her from the situation in Minneapolis is a good start.
That's right, Vlad. And President Trump has actually been pretty dismissive of those congressional Republicans, such as North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, who have voiced their discontent with the job that Noem is doing. But all indications are, going into this cabinet meeting today, is that President Trump will still show confidence in Noem and that she will keep her job, despite the internal disagreements that we've been hearing from the White House as well as the Department of Homeland Security. This will also be the first time we see Noem on camera since President Trump took her out of leading the operations in Minneapolis and instead put border czar Tom Homan, who President Trump repeatedly this week has signaled that he believes he can do a better job working with Democratic officials and Governor Tim Walz, given his work during President Obama's administration.
And Aaron, I mean, all week we've seen the president try to move away from conversations about Minnesota. Do you think that he can successfully do that at this cabinet meeting?
My prediction is he'll add on. You know, he's posted about this morning on Truth Social the 2020 election, the Federal Reserve, about Gavin Newsom, but he's still engaging on Minnesota. He shared video, the latest video we have of Alex Pretti engaging with immigration enforcement in Minnesota about a week or so before he was shot and killed. The president said yesterday that Minneapolis Mayor Fry is, quote, playing with fire for saying the city will not enforce immigration laws. So he's still definitely engaging with this topic of Minnesota, which he has also tried to bring up the alleged fraud that remains a popular political point for his party. But there's also this potential shutdown in the government that could prompt the president to still talk about Minnesota while still addressing other topics as he goes from cabinet secretary to cabinet secretary to